In this video, Katia will show you how to make an easy mini album. Hello, I am Tinne from Victoria Designs, and if you like your crafts and journals to look more vintage, aged and booky, perhaps you like our Leonardo Da Vinci kit. We made smaller Leonardo Da Vinci kits before, but now we also have a big one. And with these printables, Katia created a tutorial for you to make a mini album. Maybe you've never made an album before, but you've always wanted to. This one's an easier one to get a feel for it, or it's a quicker one to make as a handmade gift. Katia has many great tutorials on her channel, so definitely go check that out, the link is below. And like always, you can use our other kits or scrapbook paper to make this project, and you can use the printables from this Leonardo da Vinci kit to make a lot of other crafts and journals as well. We have over 70 other tutorials that you can make with this kit. All the measurements you need will appear on the screen, and if you would like a PDF with everything neatly in a row, you can opt in via the link in the description to get that PDF. If you want more information about this beautiful kit, you can discover it all in my Etsy shop, the link is below as well. And now here's Katia. Enjoy!
Okay, let me show you the project that we are going to be working on today. So here's the front and the spine and the back. All right, so we open it up and we've got a little mini journal with the little mini journaling cards. Super cute. That just ties back up like that. And then we've got a magnetized flap here. And then that opens. You've got some areas for journaling or photos. Each of these pages has a little pull out with a couple of the journaling pages cut to fit. So that just goes back in the side pocket here. And then we've got a swing tab here that rotates out of the way. And then you open up these two flaps and you've got a couple pockets here. So here we've got a little envelope that you can tuck a little message into. And then one of the other ephemera pieces, and then same on the other side. And then that gets closed up like that. Over here we've got a magnetized flap that opens and then opens a second time. And then on the last page, we've got a flap that opens to the right with some spots for journaling. And then this is a large pocket, and I've got a bunch of the ephemera bits inside the pocket. So a really simple album, but it's got quite a few really cool little spots. Oh, and then this page as well also has a pull out. All right, fabulous. So let's make it. Okay, so this is the collection I will be using today. It's the Leonardo da Vinci collection. So here are some of the kind of cut aparts and extra elements. We've got some pockets, we've got some bookmarks, some more pockets, some extra little bits and pieces, some nice words. And here's the patterned papers. So very kind of neutral colors. There's a couple really cool like book cover looking things. You can imagine these being like old leather books. And then some full sheet patterns. And then some horizontal, those were all vertical, and then we've got some of the patterns horizontal as well. And then some plain pieces where you can let your eye rest from the patterns. So these coordinate really nicely. All right, some cut aparts. Okay, and then I've got some of the small journaling cards. So there's 3 sizes of journaling cards. Those are the smallest. These are the second smallest. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to use these because I had them printed double-sided, and my the printer that I took them to, all the opposite sides are all upside down, so I can't fold them and use them like I normally would, which is kind of frustrating. I might try and find a different use for them. So like if this is right side up, then the Mona Lisa is upside down when you fold them. So a little bit frustrating, but that's all right. I will find a way to use them, but they are really cool. I love all the, I'm a big book person, so I love all the imagery. All right, so I've got a bunch of those, but I don't know, like I said, if I'm going to use them. And then there is one larger size than this as well. Okay, all right, let me get these out of the way. Oh, just a note, those two beautiful book covers, I did also get them printed 2 on 1 page, which made them quite a bit smaller. So I think I'm going to use one of these as the cover. So this doesn't come like this. You have to ask your printer or on your own printer at home. Just put 2 on 1 page. If you can't do that, then you can just cut out part of the large image and use it as your cover. Or use a different piece altogether. Your album. You do what you like to do. Okay, so I'll quickly go through the materials that we'll need and then we'll get going. All right, so for adhesives, I'll be using double-sided score tape and wet adhesive in conjunction. You can just use the wet adhesive if you so desire. I like to use them both, mostly because I am too impatient for the wet adhesive to dry, and I usually end up accidentally moving pieces out of place. And so the dry adhesive, the double-sided tape, allows it to like kind of stay in place and gives the wet adhesive time to dry. Okay, and it just makes it really strong that way. For adding the pattern paper, I'll be using my ATG gun. For that, you can also use score tape if you don't have an ATG gun. We will be adding a few magnets, so disc magnets. I use 10mm by 1mm disc magnets. You can find them all over online if you just type that in. Your paper trimmer. I'm using black cardstock, but if you'd prefer, you could use white or whatever color cardstock you need, but you'll need a few sheets of that. You'll need 1 piece of like a medium weight chipboard for the covers. You'll need your scoreboard with your bone folder and scoring tool. And then lastly, you will also need some Tyvek. I use the Tyvek, I cut it up into strips and use it to wrap the seams of the covers. If you don't have Tyvek or don't want to buy it, you can wrap the cover completely in cardstock. I'll kind of go over that as we're doing the cover. And then of course you'll need your pattern paper, and we might possibly be adding a couple swing tabs. I haven't decided if I'm going to do that or not, but if so, we will need a couple brads. Okay, so I've got brads in there. All right, so I'm gonna get this out of my way and then we'll start. All right, let's get our pieces ready for our cover. We'll do our cover first. Okay, so for the cover, you're gonna need 2 pieces of chipboard that measure 5 1/8 inches by 6 1/2 inches. So I work in inches. I'm gonna say my pieces in inches, and then I'll have the centimeters written down below. And then the spine piece will be 5 1/8 by 1 1/2. So those are your 3 pieces. They're gonna sit like this. It's gonna be a horizontal album, and then you'll need some cardstock to cover. I'm going to cover each of these pieces separately, so it's going to look like this, and I'm going to cover that, and then I'm going to cover this one separately, and then this will be the spine piece, and I will cover that separately, and then I'll use the Tyvek to put it all together. If you would like to do the entire thing all in one go and not use the Tyvek, then just adhere 2 pieces of cardstock together. Put your pieces down, like adhere them down like this. You'd have to have a piece just a little bit bigger than this, and then just wrap everything together. Okay, but I am gonna use the Tyvek. Okay, so I'm gonna put some adhesive on the backs of my chipboard, and then we will wrap these covers. Okay, so I've got some adhesive on the backs of my chipboard. And you just want to cut cardstock that is about around an inch all of border all the way around your chipboard. And then we're just going to put that right in the center. And then we're going to add some score tape all the way around. Okay. Oh, I forgot scissors in my things that you need. So I'm just going to cut at an angle on each of the corners so that these can fold independently. And then we're going to wrap them around the chipboard. So I'm cutting into the corner. I'm angling out slightly so it's not quite straight across. And then these are all going to wrap around the chipboard like this. So if you're doing this without wrapping them separately, if you're doing it all on one without the Tyvek, then you would literally have these adhered down to a large piece of cardstock that would go from here to here and here to here, and then do the same process but wrap all of it at the same time instead of wrapping each piece individually. Okay, I hope that makes sense. You can check out, I have quite a few videos on my YouTube channel, and there's quite a few videos that show that process. So you can check those out if you like. I believe my last tutorial for Victoria Designs actually did that, so. Okay, so now I'm doing the exact same process with the spine piece. Tyvek can be found at any office supply store or online, so just look for Tyvek envelopes. So they are quite readily available, so just so you know where you can find them. And it's spelled T-Y-V-E-K if you're interested. Okay, I'm just going to trim off. This is a little bit too long down here, so I'm just going to trim off a little bit. Okay, and I'm going to do the same process, cutting off, cutting to the corner, angling out. Okay, get those out of the way. Okay, there's your spine piece. If you have any corners that are feeling kind of sharp, I just use my bone folder and just kind of round them off a little bit so they're not quite as sharp. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same process with my other side cover. Okay, so once you have all three of your cover pieces wrapped like that, we are going to use the Tyvek. So I've got two pieces of Tyvek that are 11 inches by 2 inches, and I've got some score tape on the back of them. Okay, I'm going to lay them sticky side up, one at a time. So sticky side up, I'm going to place my one of my covers onto that sticky and then leave a little bit of a gap and place my spine piece down. So there's about 1/8 of an inch of a gap, and then I'm gonna pull one end around and the other end like that. Okay, so now you've got your spine piece attached to the cover, and now we're going to do the exact same process with your other piece. Okay, so sticky side up, put it so that the spine piece is stuck down, and then leave a little gap and put your other piece, make sure they're lined up with each other. Pull that one down, pull this one up, and there you go. That is your cover. So we're gonna have pattern paper on here, so you won't even see the tie-back. You'll just see it basically at the top and bottom. Okay, so there is your cover. We're going to have 2 base pages. They measure 6 inches by 9 3/4. We're going to grab our scoreboard, and we are going to score each of those at 1/2 inch and 5 1/8. 1/2 and 5 1/8. Okay, so those are your base pages. Set your scoreboard aside for a second. We're going to add some score tape to those 2 1/2 inch sections. And you just want to leave a little tiny bit of a gap between the score line itself and the adhesive. Okay, leave a tiny bit of a gap. And now we're just going to miter the corners. So I'm literally just going to, from the score line to the edge of the page, I'm just going to cut off just a little bit at an angle. This is more aesthetics than anything. It just creates a cleaner fold when you fold it over. If you don't do it, it's not going to affect your album at all. It's just an aesthetics thing. It does make for a neater fold, but it's not going to do any harm if you do not do it. All right, I'm going to remove the tape backing. So I've folded both of those score lines. I'm going to add just a little bit of wet adhesive to this. Okay, and I'm going to fold it up. Okay, so the base pages are essentially like a weird, not like a tube, but they're open on either end, like that, okay? So we're going to do the same thing to the other one. So we're going to fold, we've got the indented line here. We're folding away from that indent. Okay, and then doing the same for this. Give it a bit of a crease here. The better your folds are creased, the better everything will move and sit, and it's just better. Okay, so just a little bit of wet adhesive and close that up. So those are your 2 base pages. So one end is going to sit on our binding system, and then the other end is going to be open so that you can add an extra insert in there. Okay, so those are your base pages. Now we're going to start on our different elements that we're going to add to the pages. So for page 1, you'll need 2 pieces. You'll need one that measures 2.5 by 6, and the other one measures 4 by 6. Okay, grab your scoreboard. That first shorter one is going to be scored at 1/2 on the shorter side, and your other piece is also going to be scored at half on the shorter side. Okay, perfect. Add score tape to those 1/2 inch sections. Okay, once again, we are going to be mitering the corners. So just like we did on the base pages, we are just going to cut a little bit off at an angle. We're going to fold on those score lines and give it a little crease. Then we're going to grab one of those base pages. We're going to remove the tape backing from the small piece. I'm going to add a little bit of wet adhesive. And we are going to adhere it to the top of your base page. So make sure that the openings of the base page are to the left and the right. Okay, so it's in this orientation. And then your second piece is going to adhere to the bottom. So again, a little bit of wet adhesive. And this is going to go at the bottom of your base page. Oh, I think I might have gotten that one a little bit crooked. Okay, now we're okay. Okay, and now I am going to add a magnet to close this up. I'm going to put just a tiny bit of score tape in the center here. I'm going to put one single magnet on top of that score tape. I'm going to take another single magnet, let it find its buddy on the back side of the paper. Add another little piece of score tape. And then close it up. And there you go. You've got your magnet in place. So that's your page 1. For your page 2, you're going to need 2 pieces that measure 4.5 inches by 5 inches. Bring your scoreboard back in. We're going to score each of these on the 5-inch side at 1/2 and 5/8. Okay, so just one little tick over. Okay, so you've got that little gusset there. And same with the other one, 1/2 and 5/8. Okay, perfect. Once again, we're going to do that same process, adding our score tape, mitering our corners, folding and creasing, adding to our page. I'm doing them both at the same time because they're both the same size, and we're just going from the edge of the first line that we did. Okay, so you're not cutting into that gusset. I'm not sure if you can see that there. It's maybe a better angle. Okay, and so we just finished that. You're gonna flip it over, and these are going to go to either side, the one on the right, one on the left, and you're going to fold both of these score lines. So they're quite close together. I kind of almost roll it and then fold. Okay, give them both a crease. Okay, and then remove the tape backing, add a bit of glue. And one's going to go on the left-hand side. The other's going to go on the right hand side. You can decide which one you want on top. Right over left or left over right, it matters not. I'm just rotating it because it's easier for me to see if I'm straight that way. Okay. So one on the left, one on the right. And then in the decorating process, we're going to add 2 pockets from the paper collection on the inside. So for now, actually I might add a swing tab. So I'm just going to leave that one just as it is. And we'll see how, I'm not sure how I'm going to close it yet. So I'll let that be part of the decorating process. Okay, so your page 3, you just need 1 piece, and it is 4 3/4 by 8. Grab your scoreboard again. We are going to score this puppy at 1/2 and 4 1/4. And that's it. Okay, we're gonna do our little song and dance here. So we've got score tape, miter, score tape, miter, fold and crease, add to your page. I don't know. I shouldn't have even tried that. Anyway, do those steps. Right. Grab your second base page. Okay, we've already done the first 2, so make sure your openings are on the left and the right. This is going to adhere centered left to right. Okay, even space on the left and the right. And once folded, it will open up once and open up again. Okay, and I am going to add a magnet. So let's add the magnet on, we'll do it on the inside of here. Okay, so open this up, and we're actually going to put 2 magnets magnetized together. Okay, so I've got 2 here. We're going to put 2 magnets on that tiny piece of score tape. We're going to make a magnet sandwich. Adding another tiny piece of score tape. Removing the backing. Closing this down. And I'm just going to add a little bit of score tape over top of each of those, because when they are like this with no paper in between them as a buffer, they want to get back together, and so they sometimes can like actually pull off the page if there's not a buffer in between them. They're super strong. All right, there's your page 3. So for your page 4, you have 2 pieces. One is 4 1/2 by 5 1/2. The other is 4 1/2 by 4 5/8. Okay, grab your scoreboard again. Okay, so we are going to score at 1/2, and then we are going to, so 1/2 on the long side, and then we're going to rotate our piece. So that score line's now at the bottom. We're going to score at 1/2 again, and then we're also going to score at 5. So you've got 1/2, 1/2, 1/2. And then your other piece, we are going to score on the 4 5/8 inch side, so the larger side, at 1/2. Okay, get your scoreboard out of the way. I won't sing again, I promise. Put your score tape on. Going to add score tape to all of those 1/2 inch sections. Okay, we're gonna miter again. Don't worry, I will not sing. And if you can see that score line here, ignore that. That was a boo-boo. Okay, and then we're going to cut these corners like we did on our cover. Okay, so it should look like that, minus that score line. Okay, now we're going to fold these 3 score lines. Okay, we're going to grab our base page. We just finished doing that one, and we're going to flip it over. We're going to take our score tape backing off here. I like to do the sides and then kind of push the bottom bit over top of it, and that helps create a smoother channel if the side bits are underneath the bottom bit. Okay, I'm going to add some wet adhesive all the way around those 3 sides, and then this is going to sit on the right edge of your base page. Okay, so you've got the opening here as a pocket, and then your other piece is going to sit right here. Okay, I'm just going to turn it sideways again because it's just easier for me to line it up. And I still went crooked. How is that possible? How did I still go crooked? Okay, so just like that. And then we are going to add 1 magnet to close this up. So we're going to put a little piece of score tape right about there. And just like we did on the first set of magnets, we're going to put 1 magnet there and another to find its buddy, and then put a little piece of score tape on top of that and close it up. And because it's got the paper in between it, you don't have to worry about them coming off. Alright, so those are your page designs. I am going to get some of my patterned paper ready to go, and I will go over quite a bit of the decorating process with you, but I will put some of the paper on off camera because it's what takes the longest amount of time to decorate. Like, just to put your pattern paper on, you want to have a little bit of the black showing around the edge. So whatever piece you're planning on covering, measure it and then go 1/4 inch smaller, both width and height. Okay, and that's all there is to it. So I will come back in a minute when I have some of this done. Okay, so let's work on the decorating of the pages. So far I've got this piece here, and then I've just got white on the inside because I want to keep quite a bit of white space so people can write or add photos. A lot of people don't want to cover up the pretty paper. For the small sections, I'm just using the bookmark pieces that have been cut down to size. So let's put that on there. And then I've cut it so that we've got a little bit of black all the way around, and then the same on the inside. And that's all there is to page 1. And then on the next page here, page 2. So on the inside, I've got this element here, and then white on the inside. So I always like the whole thing to be looked at as a whole, so you want this piece and this piece to kind of coordinate. So I'm going to add this one on here. Okay, so I'd like to create a swing tab for this page, so a piece that will swing out of the way in order for this flap to open. So I've got I just cut a circle out of like one of the images of the paper, and I've backed it on a little bit of chipboard. Okay, just a thin chipboard. You can even use a cereal box. And my next step is to punch a hole in this piece of chipboard. Now, if you don't, I'm using a crocodile. If you don't have something like this, just use whatever method you have of poking a hole in something. All right. And then I'm going to get a brad. Okay, so I've got my brad ready. Now I'm just going to kind of line this up where I want it to go. I'm going to just put my craft pick in the hole for a second, just because I want to make sure that when this swings out of the way, it will swing all the way out of the way for this to open. I can even go just a little bit closer. Okay, so hold it there, make sure it's center top to bottom, get a pen or a pencil, and just make a little mark in that hole. Okay, so once you've got your mark there, we're gonna punch a hole where you put that mark. Oh gosh, I can't even see mine. I think it's right there. Okay, so I'm just using my craft pick to punch a hole there. Then I'm going to put my brad through the hole in the chipboard piece, through the hole in the paper. Then I'm going to open it up and open the tines. Now, I hadn't decided, or I guess I probably forgot when I was adding the white paper that I wanted to add a brad. So now I've got these tines here. So here's a way that you can easily fix something like that. You can either use a piece of ephemera, for instance, to just kind of cover it up like that, or you can use little bits of the paper and kind of create a little almost border kind of thing, which is what I'm going to do. So I've cut two so we can make it symmetrical on either side. It just looks more natural that way. I'm going to put some double-sided tape on there. And on the other one as well. So these are just part of, like, I never throw away any scraps until the very end because I often use scraps for the decorating process. So now I'm going to remove the tape backing and just line this up over top of the tines, and then you will never know that they're there. There's a tiny little lump, that's okay. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side just to keep it symmetrical, so try and eyeball it so that it's about the same. Okay, and now it looks intentional. All right, so that closes, and then this rotates over top. All right, so that's your page 2. I was planning on doing pockets here, wasn't I? I might still do that. So these are a couple pockets from the collection. So you just score along these 2 lines here and then fold them and then just trim off this extra little bit. And then glue it down. Yeah, I think I might still add pockets. Okay, so I'm going to add some score tape to these. Okay, so remove the tape backing. Okay, I'm going to tuck that in right there. Fabulous. Okay, and then I'll put this other one over here. Let's just cut off this extra. Okay, so I'll put this one over here. Kind of wish it was going the opposite direction, but that's okay. We'll make it work. Page 3, so I just wanted to, when 2 pages are beside each other, I do like them to coordinate. so my page 2 and 3 coordinate together. All right, so I've got this piece on the front, and then as you open it up, I've got white there, and then I'm going to use one of the journaling papers that I can't use otherwise, so I can just use it like that. So I'm going to adhere that down. I've just kind of cut it down and then folded it in half. Yeah, I'm gonna try and find ways to use these journaling papers that my printer did upside down, because there's some really cool images and I'm kind of bummed that I wasn't able to use them as a full journal, but that's all right. We adapt and we switch up our plans, and there's so many ways to use paper, so it's all good. Okay, and I'm gonna do a couple going this way as well. Okay, so I'm just going to line this up with my fold here. Okay, I'm going to fold it again and give it a good crease. Okay, and then I'm going to put this piece down here. It's green. Remove this little bit of tape covering the magnet. Put that down. Okay, and now I want there to be as much white space to write as possible. I mean, you could add a little photo here, but I'm going to add just an extra piece of white for extra writing space. A lot of people that love my journals when I sell them at markets and such want them as journals, not so much as photo albums. So I have been doing a lot more white space in my projects so that people can have lots of space to write. So I'm just going to make sure that it is in a place where this will cover it. There we go. And then I'm just going to add an extra little element here just as a decorative thing. So I'm just going to glue that down as well. It's a small album, but there's lots of spaces that we can add some of these cool design elements that are part of the paper collection itself. Okay, and that is that. And then on the last page, so I've just got the brown on the front, white in there, and then I just wanted to show you that when you're adding paper into a pocket, you want it to go into the pocket at least 1/2 inch or even a little bit more so that your tags don't get stuck on anything when they're being pulled out. You want it to really be in the pocket a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to tuck it into the pocket and don't let it kind of hold it so that it doesn't adhere until it's in there and in the spot that you want it to be in. And even, and then let it adhere. I'm a tiny bit crooked, but that's okay. I'm okay with that. And then you can just add in to the pocket any extra little bits. I might add a couple of these cards here, which are part of the collection, into that pocket. There we go. All right, so those are your pages. Now let's quickly do our binding system, and then we'll put these into our binding. So for your binding, you need a piece of cardstock that is 4.5 inches by 6.5 inches. Grab your scoreboard. We are going to score at 1, 1.5, 2 1/4, 3, 3.5, 4 1/4, 5, 5.5. Okay, I'll say those one more time in inches, and then I'll put them on the screen in centimeters. 1, 1.5, 2 1/4, 3, 3.5, 4 1/4, 5, 5.5. Okay, put your scoreboard away. And now we can add some score tape to the 3/4 inch sections. So there's 4 sections that are 3/4 of an inch. So these two here. You really just need to add it to section 3, section 6. Okay? I didn't really need to add this extra one here. So we are going to fold these together. Okay, so you really only needed score tape on the 1/2 because it's gonna stick. Okay, and then we're gonna fold these pieces back. So then you've got like something that looks like that. And same over here, remove this tape backing and fold it to the one next to it to adhere. Okay, and then fold this piece back and back on the other side, so then you've got something that looks like that. Okay, fold those other 2 score lines. Okay, now we're going to add some score tape to both sides of each of these flanges. Okay, and then we're going to trim a little bit off the corner of each, like mitering them like we've been doing all along. Just a little bit, make sure everything else is out of the way so you're just cutting the flanges. Okay. So now your piece should look like this. All right, now we're going to put score tape on the back side of this. Just like this. And now we can bring in our cover and we're going to add this onto our cover. So I do have paper already on the cover, just green on the sides, and then this will be for the inside, but I haven't put them on yet. So we're going to remove this tape backing, add a little bit of wet adhesive because we really want this to stay. I'm just going to smooth it out just a little bit with my fingers so there's no big globbies. Okay, and then we are going to put this smack dab in the center of our binding. Okay, and I like to use a ruler and stick the ruler in the crease and just kind of fold that up on either side. Oh, my glue's not quite dry yet. It's not happy about me doing that. And now we can add our pages in. So we're going to remove the tape backing from both sides of one of these flanges. We're going to add a little bit of wet adhesive to both sides. Okay, so we're just going to put our fingers inside the opening of the page. Okay, and then we're just going to slide it onto the flange. It should slide on quite easily. Okay, and then you're just going to press at the bottom. All right, and there we go. And we're going to do the same thing with our other page. So I've already removed the tape backing, so just remove the tape backing, add some wet adhesive, and open the page like that. Have your fingers in there, and just kind of keep them spread like that as you slide it on until it's kind of on there. Make sure they're even with each other, and then just press at the bottom. All right, so now your pages are in your album. So now we can add, I think this is, yeah, this is still not completely adhered. My spine, my binding piece, it's still, the glue just takes forever to dry. Gosh. Okay, I'm gonna leave this for a couple minutes and let the glue completely dry, and then we will add our pieces on the inside covers. Okay, so my glue is dry now. I've got this piece on the front cover. I'm gonna put this piece on the back cover here. And that also adds a little bit of extra stability to that piece of the binding that is overlapping there. All right, so I did want to use these tiny little journaling cards. So I printed out a couple and just stapled them together. All right, I've got a tiny, like one strip of score tape along the back. And what I'm gonna do is take just a random piece of ribbon that I have and make sure it's even, and put the ribbon on the back side like this. Okay, so we're gonna glue this whole thing down onto our front cover. I'm just gonna use score tape, I think. I don't feel like waiting for wet adhesive to dry again. I'm too impatient. Okay, so I'm just going to adhere that down right in the center like that, and then tie it up to keep it closed. So it's just like an extra little element. Pretty. All right, and then I've fussy cut a bunch of the extra pieces. So I'm gonna at least put a few of them on in different spots just to add some interest. And then we still have these open, right? The sides open. So I've just cut a couple pieces of white cardstock, folded them in half, added some of the journaling pages onto them, and we're just gonna add those into these spaces, and they should stick out just a little bit. So they measure 6 inches by 8.5, and then I've folded them in half. All right, and let's see, is there anywhere else that might need a little extra something? Maybe this little guy down here. You don't have to add any of the extra elements, but they're so cute, so I might as well use them, right? So I'll just stick him down there. And then we've got our pockets here. So what should we add into the pockets? We've got these guys. So these are little mini envelopes. So you would score all the way around the center bit and then fold these parts in. Give them a little crease with your bone folder. And then fold this up. I guess you could do it either way. You could have these on the outside or the inside, I suppose. I like them better on the inside. Okay, and then this would fold down and be a little opening for an envelope. Okay, so I'm going to put a little bit of score tape on the two sides and fold this up. Okay, so now you've got a little pocket. You can stick some of the extra little bits into, let's just stick her in there, and then we'll stick the other one in the other pocket. All right, fold that up, close that, and I'll add some elements inside the pocket. Or you could even just add a little thing of white paper, and they could be a secret little place for someone to add a message. And then swing that closed. Over here, I'm gonna add something to this, but I don't know what. Maybe a little border. Maybe we could do a border on either side. That might look cute. Okay, I'm gonna use this little border strip and just put a border on either side. I just wanna add something extra. So this little piece of paper is 3 3/8. So I'm just gonna cut 2 pieces that are 3 3/8. Now you don't have to do any of this, but I just like, especially if when it's a simple album, using these extra design elements can make it look really, really fancy, even if the designs of the pages themselves are fairly simple. It can make it look a lot more fancy. There we go. I like that. Okay, perfect. And then on the back side, let's maybe use the books here. A little tip for you, if you're not like a really good fussy cutter, like my fussy cutting here is not great, so I've got a little bit of Distress Oxide and Vintage Photo and an ink dauber, and I'm just going around the edge of this with a little bit of the ink, and that really disguises the fact that you haven't cut it out perfectly. So a little tip for you there. It just kind of distresses it and makes it look like everything was intentional. All right, so I'm going to adhere that down. Awesome. And then I've got a couple of these extra journaling cards in the pocket there. And there we go. Well, these stick out just a tiny bit more than I'd like them to. I'm going to trim these just a tiny bit here. All right, and there we go. There is our super cute little album. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope that you will give it a try. It's really quite simple, but it has a lot of punch to it. I think it's quite attractive. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you will check out other videos on my channel, Lunar Sun Creations, and I hope you have a beautiful day. Bye!